Hello, Startup Vision. I am Maher Damak, CEO and co-founder of Infinite Cooling.
Hello, Maher. Thank you so much for being with us today on Startup Vision. So you just won the French American Entrepreneurship Award, meaning you are an innovative and a future success startup. This award also looks into companies which do good for the planet and to the people, and you achieved that goal with Infinite Cooling. Can you explain the concept of your company?
Absolutely. So Infinite Cooling is about water sustainability. So one of the largest consumers of fresh water around the world is industrial cooling systems. And just to give you an idea, in the US alone, they consume over 1 trillion gallons, or about 4 trillion liters of water per year. At the same time, we have about 2 billion people globally that lack access to basic, reliable fresh water for everyday needs. So our goal is really to bring water back to these communities that need the water. So we started by looking at where most water is being used. And we found that it's used a lot in industrial processes like power generation, chemicals production, data centers, and a variety of other industrial processes. And what all of these processes have in common, and where they use most of their water, is in their cooling system. So you need water for cooling. Typically, that's done with cooling towers that evaporate water for cooling, and that consumes a lot. So what we do, and what our idea was to try to take the emissions or losses from these industrial systems and turn those into fresh water that can be reused. So basically, they release a lot of water vapor. We take that waste stream, or what's today is considered a waste stream, and turn it into valuable clean water that can either be used on site or sent back to the community for use for drinking or other applications.
This sounds really great. So FAEA is an award organized each year in New York by Club 600 and CCE, rewarding promising French American entrepreneurs launching a project in the US. So what does it mean to win this prestigious award for the team and for the company?
So it's obviously a great honor to be selected for this award. The team is very excited about this recognition for the work that we've been doing in the last 2 years, and very encouraging as we keep going. Obviously, we are very excited about our work, but it's always great to see other people get excited about the same work. It's also great to be part of this community of French leaders and entrepreneurs. You know, it's always great to meet entrepreneurs, but I think specifically French entrepreneurs that came from France and are building something here, a company here, that's even harder. So actually the people you get to meet in these events are really, it's a very selective group of people, and I had a chance to meet several of them in New York a few weeks ago. So that was a great experience.
Yeah, it's a sense of being part of the community. I totally agree with you. So the co-founders are very impressive. You both have a PhD from MIT, and Infinite Cooling has a very complex proprietary technology. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
In simple words, because I know you're a specialist, but in simple words.
Yeah, I'll try. So actually the technology itself, is proprietary and a little complex, but the principle behind it is actually fairly simple. So the way these most cooling systems work is that they cool down the system by evaporating water. It's kind of the same principle our bodies use when we sweat and we evaporate that sweat to cool down the body. So that's how they work. And then in that process, they release a lot of vapor that's generated in them. And you can often see these plumes or clouds coming out of cooling towers. If you ever drive by a power facility or an industrial facility, you see these white plumes coming out. And they look like smoke, but it's actually, whenever it's coming from these cooling systems, it's actually just pure water that's evaporated in those systems. So what our idea was, and what our technology does, is it uses electric fields to attract this water that's coming out from these cooling systems and capture it. It's basically like a filter that can grab all of that water. It's a porous system that lets air pass through it, but then extracts all the water so it can be reused. And more specifically, I talked about electric fields. So our technology generates electrical charges that make the escaping water electrically charged. And then we apply an opposite polarity to a collection surface that then attracts all of that water. The water collects there, and then it can be captured and then channeled back and then sent back for reuse, or sent back somewhere else for to be used. And what's interesting about this technology versus, people have thought about reducing water consumption in these processes. People know that this is a huge water consumption source, but all the previous attempts to do this were kind of too expensive. You spend much more energy to save water than the value of the water that you're saving. And this is a way that we came up with can actually do the water savings in a cost-effective way. It actually uses very little energy. And this is very important because now for our customers, sustainability and financial returns don't have to be traded off. You don't have to pay to be sustainable. They can go hand in hand. You can be sustainable and save on costs.
So I guess this is your competitive advantage. We can say that.
Exactly.
Okay, that sounds great. So you already raised quite a bit of money, $20 million up until now. You just did a Series A. So what's next for Infinite Cooling?
So yeah, exactly. We just raised our Series A in June of this year. We raised a little over 12 million. And the next step is really to start deploying this technology with our partners. So over the past 2 years since we started the company, we've focused a lot on product development, internal testing, and we've done some initial pilots here in the Boston area where we are located. But now we're starting to scale up and install this technology on large facilities. We have signed initial agreements and contracts with a few select partners that we're currently working with. And we have many more that we will start working with in 2022. And we will be expanding from there. And we're seeing a lot of excitement in this space with companies that have various goals. We have a lot of companies that are interested in sustainability these days, being more water conscious and reducing their water footprint. So that's definitely something that we're helping customers with. But also a lot of customers realize that water is becoming a major bottleneck in their process, and especially those in water scarce areas. So we're helping them reduce their dependence on water in those areas and also reduce costs.
I have a last question, Maher. So on a personal level, what is more difficult, being an expert/doctor in fluid dynamics and electrostatics, or being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say both are difficult and exciting. There is a difference though, in physics, there is typically one answer. You do an experiment and you get a result. When you have a repeatable result, you can come up with a theory and characterize your system. It takes a lot of time and it's hard, but at the end there is one truth. And in entrepreneurship, it's quite the opposite. So you can't really characterize everything around you fully. So you have to learn to live with uncertainty on everything. You can never predict the outcome 100%, but we can work hard and move in the right direction. And there are a lot of successes, but also failures. And I've come to embrace this as uncertainty as a great learning experience. So I guess to answer the question, as a scientist turned entrepreneur, I would say, yeah, both are challenging, but also rewarding in their own way. But I'm very happy to be an entrepreneur at this stage.
So that's great. That's a great insight you're bringing us. Congratulations again for this award and the best future for Infinite Cooling. Thank you so much, Maher, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.